Past hour, it's been through all of them. Please feel free to help yourselves to some food. Get yourselves comfortable. And once you fill up a plate, you can find a seat. Okay, once again, good Yom Tif. I am Menucha Majeski, and it's a real zchus for me to be here in this incredible room with atomic power on such a special night. Matzah Shabbos, Yud Shevat, going into Yud Aleph Shevat. The Rosh Hashanah for our Iskashros. And not just are we in such a special time and such a special place, but we're in the presence of such special people. The Nashim Tzidkanyos who are actually making it happen. The whole process of all of creation, the purpose of everything, and the ultimate result of bringing the Shekhinah down here is accomplished, believe it or not, through us. And that recognition alone is enough to make you a little speechless. We know that what a Hasidic Farbrengen can accomplish, Malach Michal can't. And this evening is dedicated for all those who need any brachos, specifically the Ilay Nishmas, Reb Yaakov Yisrael ben Avram, Alav Shalom. Reb Shmuel ben Yaakov Yisrael Alav Shalom, and for Refuah Shalema for Sheva Chaya Mushka Bas Netel, Menachem Mendel ben Dvoralea, Seich Sh'ar Chayei Yisrael, and it should be a Farbrengen that should bring Zechusim for any brachos that are needed or wanted by anybody in any area of life. You can have in mind any names. To start off our incredible evening, please join me in welcoming an adorable presentation by the 6th grade girls of Beis Rivka. Excuse me, 5th grade. They're so mature, they could even be 6th graders already.
What? Are you going to be speaking?
Yeah, we're speaking and you're going to speak. It's good for you? That's good?
Don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it.
Now? Not yet. Okay. Go. The Rebbe told us
from the matter of the Muna from the woman Mashiach will come.
We are coming from the week of Shabbat Shira, just like our mothers did in Mitzrayim. They took their tambourines, and we are also dancing for the Geula.
talking.
Thank you.
Loud and clear. Atzlacha Rabba.
Thank you, Beis Rivka girls. I can just imagine how many hours of preparation and practice and choreography it all takes. Thank you. We will now say the Rebbe and Rebbetzins Kapitel, followed by Kapitel Chaf. And to lead us, we're going to ask Rivka Lipsker to please come up.
Good Woche, a good Jahr. Into the mic. Heintige Zeit nicht with a phone, not a helium, that's phones. Okay, we'll use the technology of the time. The Rebbe's Kapitel, please rise. Shir Hamailois Elecho Nososi Es Einai Hayoshvi Bashomayim. Hine Ke'ene Avodim El Yad Adonehem Ke'ene Shivcho El Yad Gevirto Kein Einenu El Adonai Eloheinu Ad Sheyochonenu Chonenu Adonai Chonenu Ki Rav Sovanu Vuz Rabba Sovolo Nafshenu Halaga Shananim Habuz Ligioinim. The Rebbetzins Kapitel. Shir HaMailes LeDavid Lule Adonai Shehoya Lonu Yemano Yisrael. Lule Adonai Shehoya Lonu Bekum Oleinu Odom. Azai Chaim Belounu Bacharois Apom Bonu. Azai Hamayim Shetofunu Nachalo Over Al Nafshenu. Azai Over Al Nafshenu Hamayim Azedoinim. Baruch Adonai Sheloi Nosononu Terev Lishinehem. Nafshenu Ketzipor Nimleto Mipach Yoikshim Hapach Nishba Vanachnu Nimlotnu. Ezreinu B'Shem Adonai Oise Shomayim Ba'oretz. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach Le'olam Voed. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach Le'olam Voed. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach Le'olam Voed. Now we're going to say Kapitel Chov for all Chel Am Yisrael, for Eretz Yisrael, whoever needs refuahs, Yeshuas, v'nechames, Dike Moshiach now. Lamnatseach Mizmor LeDavid. Yancho Adonai B'Yom Tzora. Yisagevcho Shem Elohei Yaakov. Yishlach Ezrecha Mikodesh u'mitzion Yitzodeko. Yiskor kol min choisecho ve'oiloscho yedashne selo. Yiten lecho chilevovecho ve'cholatzoscho yemale. Neraneno bishuasecho u'b'shem Eloheinu nidgoil yemale Adonai kol mish'alisecho. Ato yodaiti ki hoishi Adonai meshichoi yanehu mishmekotshoi bigvurois yesha yeminoi. Eile v'orechev ve'eile v'asusim ואנחנו בשם אדוני אלוהינו נזכיר. המה קורו ונפלו, ואנחנו קמנו וניסוידוד. אדוני הושיע המלך יעננו ביום קורנו. Gute Woche, gute Jahr, Psura Steves, und Beschus Noschen Zitkonjes, nicht mehr Golos. Now. Beschus der Friedrike Rebbe, der Rebbe, Moshiach now.
In January of 1950, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, passed away. For a Jewish people desperate for direction barely 4 years after the Holocaust, he left a gaping void. Hasidim around the world implored his son-in-law to lead the movement into the future. An introvert by nature, for a full year, he refused. As the anniversary approached, Hasidim around the world petitioned the Rebbe to serve as the seventh link in the exalted chain.
Der erste Judschwarte gewesen am Mittwoch. Ist noch ein Daunen, aber gehört, das Haut wir zum Geseint, so unser Stehung da bei den Tier, mit reingetrogen Reben dem Xavisch-Kasus. Mit der Haut auch reingestuft und getroffen, der Rebbe ist gesessen mit dem Schneiers. Ich denke, wärst du sie wegen zu Kasanowski, also hat Weg zum Reben, dem Xavisch-Kasus, also ich will nehmen das auch. Der Rebbe hat gewähnt, und er hat auch voneinander gewähnt. Gewähnt. Und ich denke, die Wörter gedenke ich. Ihr darf so nicht, ihr sogar zu ihr war auch heraushelfen, mit was noch ich kenne zusammen. Aber ihr sollt sagt, noch nicht verwasen von mir im Ganzen. Ihr sollt tun und ihr will auch heraushelfen. Das hat er gesagt. Wir sind nach Hause gegangen. Nachher ist er rausgekommen in Chadakov und dann gesagt mir, wo wir waren dort, als 8. Jahr bei der Nacht wird einer Farbrengen von Covid Jutschwat. Oh, wir haben gewusst, dass sie sind etwas da, Neues.
There was a whole issue about this Farbrengen. Earlier, my father meant to print it in a newspaper. This Farbrengen, the Rebbe will officially accept the Torah of the Rebbe. The Rebbe saw this, he went out, we shall schnell schreiben Akrosche. So Reb Shmuel went out to Rebbe, was soll ich schreiben? Hat der Rebbe nicht Rebbe? Was kann ich schreiben? So, it's geblieben. But nobody knew what's going to actually happen by this Farbrengen. The Rebbe still wasn't officially going to accept.
The shul upstairs was packed. And I remember seeing the walls were schwitzing. I was standing in one corner on top of the bima. When the Rebbe came and he saw the situation, and before they had a chance to make it, he stepped on one of the benches and on top of the table, another table, and before you knew, he was there in his place.
That night, with perfect clarity, the Rebbe laid out the mission statement of his leadership.
Da in Amerika ist auch allemal a Seder, a derste Sache willen hören a Statement. Und das Statement, da darf sein etwas mit a Chidush dover, mit a Inge, was im Mavel Essereien. Ich bemehle das, ich weiß nicht, das darf Mavel sein Essereien, aber immer will hören a Statement, hat der Rebbe gesagt, dass da 3 Sachen. Als da Avas ist Hashem, und da Avas Ater, und da Avas Israel. Und hat die alle 3 Sachen sein in Kule Chad.
As the evening progressed, the Rebbe's talks were delivered in a fresh and energetic style, but something was missing. A Rebbe delivers an original discourse. That would be the ultimate sign that despite his humility and refusals, he was truly accepting to serve as Rebbe.
I remember I've named when this Mendel Shver was an older chassid. He said, "Then tot mir Rebbe for Nossi. Sicher, so we get genug. We will have Chassidim von Lamayme."
Wenn Stief, der Rebbe hat genommen den Mai genannt und hat so getan, die erste Werte gedeckt, er gesagt, geschrieben, der Rebbe in dem Maimer, was er herausgegeben zu der Jahrzeit von Jutschwat.
And then with a broken voice, with the niggins, everybody stood up, you know.
In jem heißt Stalkes, hebt on der Rebbe, mit Bossi Legani. Bossi Legani achese Kalo, Dr. Avderufe mit der Schraba von Nord, als Legani in Ksivka. Nur denn, sie steht Legani, Frignuni. Das heißt, Lemokim, Shehoya Yikre Batchilo. War Mike Schino, ist betachtein Haus.
Und er hat gesagt, das Stück sein von Rayat, nachher hat er gesagt, sein Bier von Enskin, das so. Sie hat der Rebbe schon gesagt, der Mai Mercedes hat mich schon gewusst, Baruch Hashem, Amot HaRebbe nicht.
Ich mag sie dann nicht sagen,
I remember Amintlik bending down to the Rebbe and saying to the Rebbe that to us it's no different whatsoever from the Alter Rebbe with the Rebbe. But it was this kind of a matzav at that moment.
Und das, was man sagt bei jeder von uns, was mir alle seine Sachen in der Haschwi, von dem alten Reben, was Kol Haschwi in Chivivim, Choscha vielem hat das nicht verdient und hat das nicht ausgehört. Nur wenn dann die ganze Chivivim ist, war das der Haschwi.
Модно Wörter geworden. Er hat gesagt, Monten bei jeder einem, man soll wissen am Gefindlichen der Schwing. Das ist am Mann von Kirchen Lamate in der Tafti. Jamals hat man, ich habe gesagt, kann man, ich habe kein Wasser gesagt. Aber später, weil er gesagt, das gewinnt an, nicht Stamm am Eimer. Das ist auch gesagt, das ist eine neue Tkufe. Das ist gesagt. Das ist eine neue Tkufe. Und das, was sie gewesen, Punkt bei der Arbeit, Abraham bin und Mesmen, all Ding, wenn nach Horn, zu dem Schwie, was hat mehr der Lamate Bord. Das ist eine neue.
Das mit legt sich in Fegelig im Busim und im Winter liegt auf mir Arribe, seid ihr alles frei und könnt sich tun, was ihr wollt. Machen eine gute Zeit mit einem guten Leben. Das kann keine Union mit Mischane sein. Das darf dir allein happig sein, dem Stuss der Jumase und dem Koch von Nefesh Abamis und machen der Fuß Stuss die Dusche.
The Rebbe had a certain vision, and that's the way exactly he went for some years. That the Rebbe was not here to be just your Rebbe that's going to do everything for you. You have to do it. But you can count on me to be of help, of great help to you. But I expect you to do it.
wo der Rebbe Marasch in Meilich bekam mit Chemis, als die Schleischer Dworim hoibam Kaya, Teira Vedo Gnilas Chassodi, wo das doch sei Elam Kipschute, und sei Elam Kotten Zeh Hodom, darfen sie alle drei sein, Dabke Besimcha, und Besever Ponim Jofeis, wer bringt dort die Reis von Psukim, und Mamore Chazal, und dem Indek von Nivda Savaye Besimcha, was bin Prat Geiser das haft viele. Ezo Avedische Belev zuit Philo, so aber Echet Kela de Kloles von Nivrese de Shamish, es keine der Linie von Nivda Avaye Shimush Chemushe Lekene, soll das sein Besimcha.
Maybe we could change the program and just play the full Farbrengen of Shevat. Hearing the Rebbe say the words of Basi Lagani, it really drives home how seriously the Rebbe takes the position of being Rebbe. Shevat is the day that the Rebbe accepted upon himself the Nesias. But we could ask ourselves, for the Rebbe, why is it such a big deal? The Rebbe is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is our Moshe Rabbeinu. The Rebbe could do it. The Rebbe has all the miles, plus, plus, plus. Why is it such a big deal for the Rebbe? So we know that the Rebbe is our Nasi, and the word Nasi comes from the word Hisnasus, that the Rebbe is completely above us. So from that perspective, maybe it shouldn't be that much of a big deal. But Nesias also means to raise, to lift up, to carry, to hold. Yud Shvat is the day that the Rebbe takes upon himself every single one of us. And to the Rebbe, that's a very big deal. That means that every part of my life and every part of my family and every part of my experience is something that the Rebbe takes seriously. And for me, on the day of Yud Shvat, the day that the Rebbe becomes Rebbe, it is a global thing, but it's also a very personal thing. It's the day that the Rebbe chooses me to be his chesed. And when I realize that, the automatic reaction is, okay, so what can I do for the Rebbe? If the Rebbe looks at himself as if he belongs to me, how can I belong to him? And as we see in the mission statement that the Rebbe gives us, Avas Yisrael, Avas HaTorah, Avas Hashem, they're all one. And it's not something that the Rebbe takes lightly. It's something that is personal and that is specific for each individual person. And we all have the incredible zchus to take part of it. So, l'chaim, may we be chassidim. Baruch Hashem, I had many teachers over all my years and all the different schools that I've been in. And something that I came to understand is that the sign of a good teacher is someone who, even years later, you can still remember things that they taught. Our next speaker is someone who I still remember psukim and mefarshim from Megillas Ros because of Mrs. Toby Lewis, teacher in Beis Rivka. We'll now ask her to share a few words. Please give her your full attention.
Good Vach and good Yantif. As I was thinking about what I can share tonight at the special Yud Shvat Mlava Malka, I realized that I have a very special zchus that both of my grandfathers merited to have a connection with the Frierdiker Rebbe. So while I'm not here to share my family history, I want to begin by sharing two short stories of my grandfather's connection to the Frierdiker Rebbe that I hope you will find inspiring. My father's father, Rabbi Tannenbaum, had a great zchus as a bacher learning in the yeshiva in Atvatsk. He was chosen to be part of a small group of chayzrim who would review the maimarim that the Frierdiker Rebbe said. They would first review it with the Frierdiker Rebbe's secretary, and then they would go into the Rebbe, and the head chayzer, who was Rabbi Mentlik, he would repeat it in front of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe would make any corrections or any comments that he wanted to say on it. After a while, Rabbi Mentlik got married, and he moved to the United States, and my grandfather became the head chayzer, which meant that when they would go into the room, he would speak in front of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So as you can imagine, the first time he went in with his new role of being the one to speak in front of the Frierdiker Rebbe, he was very, very overwhelmed and in great awe of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he started saying the Maimer very quietly. The Frierdiker Rebbe interrupted him, and he said with a motion of his thumb, when a businessman uses his thumb, his grubba finger, that is teignish, that's not right. But when someone is coming, sitting and learning and using their thumb, their grubba finger, when learning Torah, that is the right way to do it. And the Friedrich Rebbe continued saying the Maimer where my grandfather had left off, very loudly with the melody and using his thumb. With this, the Friedrich Rebbe meant that when studying Torah, when teaching Torah, when studying Chassidus, when teaching Chassidus, we should do it with tremendous chayas, with excitement, and with vigor. My mother's father, Rabbi Edelman, grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. The first time he saw a picture of the Friedrich Rebbe, it was 1940, it was Tafshin in Adar, and the Friedrich Rebbe had just come to America. And you can imagine this was a big deal for Yidden all over America. And there was an article in the paper with a picture of the Friedrich Rebbe, an article about that the Friedrich Rebbe had arrived in America. My grandfather was so overwhelmed with the picture of the Rebbe, of the Friedrich Rebbe, that he took it and he hung it up in his room right near his bed. He was so overwhelmed with the halak upon him, with the holy countenance of the Friedrich Rebbe. Around a year later, Rabbi Axelrod, the Rav of the Tzemach Tzedek Shul in Baltimore, helped him decide to come to Temchet Mimim to 770 to start learning there and to become a student there. After a few months, my grandfather went in to have his first yechidus with the Friedrich Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe asked him, "Was hast du gelernt?" which my grandfather thought he meant, "What did you learn?" So he started telling him what he had learned. The Friedrich Rebbe said, gelernt meant, as du sagst, Amen Yeheshme Rabba anders. What does it mean to lernen? To learn, but to really learn in a way that you take something from it. That means that in that context, you say Amen Yeheshme Rabba differently, but the idea is that when we learn, it has to change us. And if we just learn and we can repeat what we learned, that's not enough. Real learning means that it changes us. There's a famous line that every speaker has only one speech. And I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if you think it's true. But which means that the same speaker, if they might be speaking about raising children or the Parshas HaShavua or the upcoming Yantif, they'll say the same underlying thing. So as was just mentioned, I do teach Megillas Russ in Beis Rivka High School, and I really wasn't planning on sharing any of it because it doesn't really have a major overlap with Yud Shvat, but I was teaching something this week, and I couldn't help but see such an amazing connection. When Naomi wanted to review the different halachas and ideas with Russ before she finished her Geirus, so there are different interesting explanations on what she reviewed with her. And according to the Medrash Rabbah, Naomi reviewed with her the following point, that it's not appropriate for a Jewish girl, for a Jewish woman, to go to the theaters and circuses of the Goyim. And that's an interesting point that she chose to mention, because it's not even a halacha, it's just like a feeling that she wanted to give her. So why would she have chosen such a random idea in the very, very specific details that she chose to review with her? So I have a fascinating book on Megillas Russ, which is put together based on the classes of Mara Heller. In that book, she explains that Naomi was teaching Russ a very important lesson. She wanted to communicate with Russ that Yiddishkeit is more than a body of laws. All religions, lahavdil, have rules about clothing, about food, about their special holidays. But to live as a Yid, Naomi was saying, means to take on a different mindset entirely. One's every moment should be imbued with the spirit of the law to the point that even one's everyday activities are different. And as I thought about that, I realized what an appropriate message that is for us here tonight. Tonight we're here to reflect on our iskashrus to the Rebbe and to find a meaningful way to strengthen our iskashrus. Being connected to the Rebbe, being a chassid of the Rebbe means my mindset is different. Being a chassid means that my everyday activities are different. The Rebbe writes in Hayom Yom of Ches Ir that every dimension of one's being is connected to the Rebbe to the point that when you look at a chassid, you see that there walks a chassid, there eats a chassid, and one sleeps like a chassid as well. So though we do say the Rebbe's kapitel every day after davening, and we say the Rebbe's psukim in Shemona Esrei, these are expressions of our iskashrus. Learning the Rebbe's teachings, following the Rebbe's instructions, visualizing the Rebbe, writing to the Rebbe, turning to the Rebbe to one's mashpia for help and making a decision. These are all ways that one lives as a chassid. But where does iskashrus begin and where does iskashrus end? It doesn't, because iskashrus really is a way of life. Iskashrus enriches and guides our every moment of our day and every activity that we do and every decision that we make. And if we want to make achlata in honor of Yud Shvat, all we have to do is think of which part of our day or which part of our life we want to uplift, and there will be a way we can do it. Because just like Naomi communicated to Rus that being a Yid means every part of your day, everything you do is now going to be different, The same idea is with our kashrus to the Rebbe. It's a way of life. We're particularly lucky in our generation because the Rebbe gave us women the opportunity and great privilege to be Hasidim as well. In a Yechidus with the Rebbe in Tafshin Yud Gimel, 1953, Mrs. Chayil Tzirla Platskin noted to the Rebbe the following. She said that the Alter Rebbe showed how geniuses could be Hasidim. Up until then, it was thought that maybe Hasidus was more, or Hasidic way of life was more for the simple people. Then she continued, the Mittler Rebbe showed how younger light could be Hasidim. When the Mittler Rebbe was 16, the Alter Rebbe gave him the job and the responsibility of guiding the young Hasidim who were continuing their learning after they got married. It seemed like it wasn't the prevalent custom until then, and this was a new thing, and the Mittler Rebbe was in charge of guiding them. She continued that Tzemach Tzedek showed how Rabbanim could be Hasidim. Even though our Rebbes were involved in many different aspects in communal affairs, they always generally minimized their involvement in paskening halachic inquiries. The Tzemach Tzedek was the exception. He was the foremost halachic authority of the time, and even Rabbanim from communities throughout Russia, even those who weren't Hasidim, they would direct their hard halachic question posed to them to Tzemach Tzedek for his opinion. The Rebbe Marash showed how Balabatim could be Hasidim. Compared to other Rebbeim, he had a lot more Hasidim that were Balabatim. The Rebbe Rashab showed how Bachrim could be Hasidim. We know the Rebbe Rashab founded Taim Chetz Mimim, and now the Bachrim were able to have a set schedule of studying Hasidus. The Friedrich Rebbe showed how children can be Hasidim. We know of the Friedrich Rebbe's tremendous Mesiras Nefesh to set up Chadarim in Russia, and even when he came to America, all the kids in here know the song, the Friedrich Rebbe made schools and yeshivas. But now she turned to the Rebbe, and she said the Rebbe is turning women into Hasidim. Mrs. Plotkin said that the Rebbe smiled and even laughed as she got to the description of what the Rebbe was doing. The Rebbe showed how women can be Hasidim. In the past generations, our Rebbeim didn't address groups of women. There is one exception in the pink Kaivetz Chafei Shevat, so there's a sicha that the Friedrich Rebbe spoke to a group of women in Riga, Latvia. But it seems like that was a one-time thing and it was upon their request. But the Rebbe gave a lot of time, responsibility, and importance to women. And perhaps that's Hashgacha Pratis, that Yud Shvat falls exactly this time of the year. Firstly, the original mimer of Basi Lagani, the Friedrich Rebbe had put it out for Rebbetzin Rivka's yahrzeit, which was Yud Shvat, so again, a woman. And then the second part, the Hemshech, was to be for Yud Gimel Shvat, which was the yahrzeit of Rebbetzin Shtar Sarah. The mimer begins, Basi Lagani, Achaisi Kala, again mentioning a woman. And then if you look at the highlights of this week, next week, and the coming week's Parshiyos, starting from today, what was read in Shul today. So we had the highlight of the Parsha, everyone stood up. We heard as Yashir, and we hear about the women singing Shiras Miriam. The Haftarah, this week's Haftarah, which always is in line with the theme of the Parsha, so it was Shiras Devaira. Now we're starting a new week, Parshas Yisrael, Kaisar Lebes Yaakov, where women were spoken to first. And then continuing on to the donations to the Mishkan, where the women came first. And then even continuing on to Chet HaEgel, where we see the greatness of the women who refused to contribute to the Egel. So Ashrenu, how fortunate are we to have this special privilege. May we live up to the schus that the Rebbe gave us, and may we have the amazing privilege of standing proudly as Nshei Chabad at the front rows to welcome Mashiach. May it be speedily. Gatzvach.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lewis. Thank you for reminding us of our incredible power as women. You may have noticed on your tables the Geula pamphlets, and in addition, there are pamphlets for an incredible Tznius campaign that's going on right now. Everyone is invited to check it out, to read through it, and most importantly, to take part. B'hashgacha pratis, I actually just heard last night something that I never knew before, Most of us know the Sikha where the Rebbe speaks about Kimches and how she was Zaycha to have 7 sons who were all Kaihanim Gedalim. And it was in the schus of her tznias. What I didn't know is that it didn't work that when they asked her, what schus did you have to have 7 sons who all were Kehanim Gedalim, she responded, it was in the schus of my tznias, and I was extra tzniastic because I knew that this would bring brachos. The idea behind her response was actually that Kimches was saying that when I raise my children, I have dreams for them. I have aspirations for them. I have wishes for them. And I know that the best way to be able to fulfill those wishes, or the most appropriate keli that I could create to help them be the best people that they can be, is by taking responsibility over what I have control over. So she made sure that every part of her life was the best possible way that it could be. And as a woman, our shining honor is our tznias, is the way that we hold ourselves, the way we speak, the way we act, the way we dress, the way we think. So by nature, through the way that she acted in such a tzniastic way, she had the schus to have these incredible sons who were Kehanim Gedalim. So the power of our hachlates, whether it's in tznias or in anything else, has infinite power for our children and for the entire world. So specifically in regard to the safety and security and nitzachain in Eretz Yisrael, please take part in this incredible campaign that's going on now. When Chassidim speak about singing Nigunim, they use the term Zaga Nigin. Because as we know, Nigunim are not just songs. They're something that we can say, more like something that we can hear being said in them. There's a message to a Nigin. We're now going to have a Nigin being sung by Bracha Esther Goldstein, accompanied by Mushka Matasav on the piano. And I invite you to Zaga Nigin. Let's sing with them. Let's bring the Rebbe into the room. And let's not just sing a Nigin, but Zaga Nigin. Hear the message.
Sing along. Thank you, Mushka.
Thank you, Bracha Esther and Mushka. Whew. That was incredible. So it was the year Tuf Kuf Ayin Gimel. That's the year 1812. And there was a war raging between France and Russia. Napoleon was advancing very quickly. And the Alter Rebbe, together with the Mittler Rebbe, were on the run from one location to another. There's a letter where the Mittler Rebbe describes a part of the war to a chassid, or Moshe Meislish. And he's describing how they were located in a certain place called Garad. And they got the news that Napoleon just keeps advancing further and further. And it was alarming. The Mitzvah describes it was Shabbos Shiva before Musaf. And he comes to the Alter Rebbe. And he sees that the Alter Rebbe was crying. There were tears streaming down his cheeks. The Metzler Rebbe describes with incredible detail this moment. And the Alter Rebbe tells the Metzler Rebbe, "Oy, the whole Belarus will be destroyed before the enemy will be able to will retreat." The Metzler Rebbe looks at the Alter Rebbe and he says, "Tata, why are you saying this? Napoleon's army didn't even reach Moscow yet. And even if they will, who says that they'll go through Belarus too? Why make such negative predictions?" And the Alter Rebbe responded, "Because it's true. Napoleon's army will definitely reach Moscow, and it will seem very scary. And this will happen b'karev. And even though we know that in the end, he will have an immediate downfall after he reaches Moscow, and even though Napoleon on his own is already considered a mess, meaning according to the Gezerah of Hashem, he's not going to win. But for a moment, it will seem very scary. It will look as if he's winning. And actually, the last thing that will happen before the Nitzachain of Russia, which is what the Alter Rebbe had been davening for, the last thing that will happen will look like a very strong Nitzachain for Napoleon, and that Nitzachain itself will actually lead to his downfall. And, of course, that's what happened. The Metzler Rebbe describes how on Erev Yom Kippur, he and the Alter Rebbe were located in a place where they saw the Russian soldiers retreating. But they weren't just retreating out of Moscow. They were running through the streets. There was mayhem. There was chaos. It seemed like the Russian soldiers had completely given up. And he describes how when this happened, and he saw the horror that was going on in the streets, he ran to the Alter Rebbe. He found the Alter Rebbe in its talis and tefillin. And the Metzler Rebbe says now he was crying. He cried to the Alter Rebbe, "What's going on over here? Tata, you said that we're going to win. And you said that he'll reach Moscow, but right after that will be his downfall. But now we see not only are the soldiers running out of Moscow, they're retreating even farther back, which means he's having more of a victory over here." And the Metzler Rebbe describes, again, with incredible detail, how the Alter Rebbe came over to him and gave him a hug. And he uses the words, "Diber b'nekudas libay." He spoke from the depths of his heart. And he told me, "Chei havaya v'chei nafshi," which is a lashon of a shvua. I promise. And the Alter Rebbe said, "I'm wearing tefillin now. And I wouldn't make a promise lightly in tefillin. Definitely not chas v'shalom, something that's the opposite of the truth." I promise that he will not end up being able to take over Moscow in completion, and that we will have an Nitzachain, and that everything will be good. The Metzler Rebbe concludes, "Kain eske lirais b'nechamais b'vias Mashiach tzedkenu." This is how it should be with us with the coming of Mashiach. And the Metzler Rebbe says, this brought such a tremendous chizuk to hear these words from the Alter Rebbe. And we both cried together, almost to the point of our neshamas leaving our bodies. To take you on a bit of a detour, if you take a look at this week's parsha, we see how Hashem gives Moshe the command to lead the Yidden back a few masais. And it seemed like the Yidden were heading back in the direction of Mitzrayim. Why should the Yidden do this? Hashem tells Moshe in the pasuk, so that Parai should think that the Yidden are nevuchim, they're confused, and they've given up on this journey of going towards Matan Torah, Hashem, freedom from Mitzrayim. So Pare decides, let's chaparai, and let's go catch them and bring them back. And that's what he tries to do. And that is what enables Kriyas Yamsuf and the drowning of the Mitzrayim to happen. The very act that seemed to be the opposite of Nitzachen for the Yidden, what seemed to be such a Yerida, going back towards Mitzrayim, was actually the greatest stepping stone on this path of their Nitzachen, of being able to not just have the Mitzrayim drown, but experience Kriyas Yamsuf, which, as we know, Chassidus explains, is the ultimate revelation of Elikus. And was the hachana for Matan Torah. When Hashem tells us, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am yours. And so often with us in our own lives, and even on a global level, we look at things that happen to us, we look at things going on in the world, we look at current events, whether it's in Eretz Yisrael or anywhere else, and sometimes we ask ourselves, what's going on? Don't we know that the Rebbe promises us Nitzachen? Doesn't the Rebbe tell us, Higi Azman Geulaschem? Aren't we there? Doesn't look like it. And as Chassidim of the Rebbe, especially as women and girls who have this incredible power to see beyond the surface, we know with complete bitachon that yes, we are there. And actually the very steps that might seem to be the opposite of the direction that we're heading is actually the stepping stone that brings us to the ultimate nitzachon, to the ultimate geula. And the Rebbe is the one who gives us this perspective. This is what a Rebbe does. This is how the Rebbe looks at every parsha, at every current event, at every detail of our lives, at every challenge that we have. And when we learn the Rebbe's Torah, and most specifically when we learn in Yanei Mashiach and Geula, when we learn how the Rebbe gives us the perspective of what's actually going on beneath the surface, we're able to see that ourselves because it's the reality. And the Rebbe helps us open our eyes to that reality. So, l'chaim, maybe look at any aspect of our lives that might seem like a setback or a challenge or something in our way, and recognize it as the truth for what it is. The path bringing us directly towards greater and ultimate Geula Amitasva Shlema now. We now have the zchus to hear from our guest speaker, Rabbi David Feldman. He is a licensed marriage therapist who helps thousands of couples find peace and joy in their marriages, bring geula to their homes. And on a personal note, we had the zchus to host his son Roni a couple of times. And our little boy always asks when he's coming back. So you're always invited.
Thank you so much. What a privilege to be here. So there's an interesting story of how I got here tonight. So my wife and I were here in Crown Heights a few weeks ago. She's become quite popular with her new book, God Said What, and her podcasts and everything. So I'm here doing the publicity tour. And we stopped by Machon to see our dear friend, Rabbi Majeski. It turns out that Rabbi Majeski wasn't feeling well, so Rebbetzin Cohen asked me if I would take over his class for the day. So I was thinking, okay, I can do this. I wasn't really that prepared, but it's a beginning class in Chassidus. I got this. So I ran upstairs into the classroom, thinking this was going to be a breeze. And who's sitting in the second row? Rebbetzin Spritzer. Uh-oh. But I must have said something that she liked, because here I am. And it really was Hashgacha Pratis anyway, because in our kollel in Chicago, in our Beis Mashiach community, we were just finishing up Basi Lagani. So I thought, wow, perfect. I started this kollel because even though our shul has a minyan almost every day, almost on Monday, almost on Tuesday, almost on Wednesday, I thought it would be nice to be mechazik the kihila. And Baruch Hashem, the kollel is amazing. Yes. We still don't have a minyan, but now I just pay everybody in the shul to come to shul. This year, when we were learning Basi Lagani, I said to myself, I really want to take something from the mimer that would be challenging but doable. So Rabbi Turin begins teaching the mimer. And the first thing the Rebbe talks about is how we're all the seventh generation and we're so beloved to Hashem. Okay, that's something I can do. Then the Rebbe continues and says that the tachlis of our generation is to bring the Shechina down lamata. Evidently, the previous generations had lost the Shechina, and it's up to us to find it and bring it down into this world. Okay, I'm on board. Then the Rebbe starts talking about iskafia. Ooh, I really hope that the entire creation of the world is not waiting on me to do that. What's next? The Rebbe talks about ishapcha. To be honest, that was strike two. I was ready to give up, but then I remembered the very first thing the Rebbe talks about is shtus. Shtus de Kedusha. And not just any shtus, a shtus that's l'mayla mitam v'das. Basically, the Rebbe is asking us to act silly without thinking much about it. And since my wife always tells me that I'm an expert in that, I knew that that one was for me. I found my golden nugget. But I had a question. Isn't the whole derech of Chabad that we're supposed to have moach sholet al alev? Aren't we supposed to use our intellect to control our emotions? I was confused. But the Rebbe brings down a Gemara, references a Gemara there, which I thought may clarify things. Now, coming from a Litvish background, I'm not afraid to learn Gemara. So when I went home, I ran downstairs to the basement where I keep all my most precious svarim, and I pulled out the Gemara in Kesuvos, Daf Yud Zayin. And in the Gemara, there's a story told of three rabbis. The first rabbi would take a myrtle branch and wave it in front of the Kala at her chasna. Evidently, that was considered pretty radical, pretty shtussy. They only saw what we did today. The second rabbi took it to a whole new level. He juggled 3 myrtle branches in front of the Kala. Now, for doing this, he was ostracized from his entire community. How unbecoming. So much so that when he passed away, a pillar of fire came down from Shemayim to vindicate him in front of his kehila, proving that his shtus of Kedusha was actually an act of tzidkis the whole time. The third rabbi, this one knocked it out of the park. He dumped the myrtle branches on the side, picked up the kala, put her on his shoulders, and started dancing around the room. By the way, I'm going to the Spritzer Chasana tomorrow night. Maybe that's something I could try. I don't know. Besser nicht. Continuing in the mimer, the Rebbe then launches into something brand new. The Rebbe starts talking about, and if for those of you ladies with bar mitzvah sons, you've probably heard this 1,000 times, you maybe have known it, recognized it, maybe not. The Rebbe starts talking about how everything Hashem asks us to do, he does. And the Rebbe then goes on to say that that's true of the Rebbeim as well, that they ask us, that which they ask of us, they themselves do. And this is the place that the famous story of the Alter Rebbe, while he was davening, he stopped his davening as a simon of Avos Yisrael, as a show of Avos Yisrael. He went to help a woman who was newly gave birth, and he cooked her some food and built her a fire, And I'm thinking to myself, what's the connection between this idea of shtus de kedusha and this concept that the Rebbe immediately brings down, which is that everything the Rebbe asks us to do, he is doing. And then I realized that the Rebbe was doing shtus de kedusha right then and there in the room. As he was talking about shtus de kedusha, he was doing shtus de kedusha. What does that mean? You got to get the scene. Okay, this is Brooklyn, New York, 1951. Everything was in black and white. Color hadn't been invented yet. Rabbi Turin explained to me that there was only 5 Lubavitch families living in Crown Heights at the time. 5. And that there were only max 100, 150 Hasidim at the Farbrengen. And here the Rebbe is telling them that the entire purpose of the, who were these Hasidim? Who were these people? They were refugees from Europe, immigrants from Russia, American Hasidim. And the Rebbe was explaining to them that the entire purpose of creation hinges on them. That they're the 7th generation and they're going to bring the Shekhinah, and not just any Shekhinah, the Iker Shekhinah. And what's the Iker Shekhinah? The light of Hashem before it even became light. Can you imagine sitting in the room and hearing this? Talk about shtus. And that this is going to usher in the Geula Mitzvah Shlema. And it's all on them because they're the 7th generation. Wow. You can't get more shtusi than that. But fast forward 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and look at what happened. From that Farbrengen, everything is transformed. 770 is no longer 150 people. I can tell you that for a fact because last night I davened downstairs in 770 for Kabbalah Shabbos. And my rabbi had told me I had to get there early, which ended up being the biggest mistake. I got there early and I stood back by the side wall and the back wall over there. It looks like they were doing some construction over there. I don't know what happened, but I stood over there and I didn't get a seat, but I was able to stand by the benches. And what was happening is that as more and more people piled in, I realized that the people in the middle of the room, whenever there were these massive waves of shoving, flowed gently back and forth. But me, since I was up against a bench, I was about to snap in half. Okay? I am, almost 60 years old. Been there, done that, not doing it anymore. So I tightened my gartel, I pulled my hat down on my head, I wrapped my scarf around my neck, and I raced for the exit. 10, 15 minutes later, after being pulled in every possible direction and yanked and shoved and loss of breath and practically passed out, I'm sure I was horizontal at some point, I made it outside. And when I looked down, my gartel was gone, my scarf was gone, and I was only wearing one shoe. But I knew I had to go back. Not for my gartel, I could always get another gartel, and not for my shoe, because I would be happy to hop back home to where I'm staying on Sterling Place. My wife bought me this scarf as a gift the last time we were here in Crown Heights, and there's no way I was going back to Chicago without it. So I dove back into 770, and Baruch Hashem, not only, see what Hashem does for Shalom Bais? Hashem not only brought me my gartel, but you can see I have my shoes on, I have my gartel, I have everything, my scarf. Baruch Hashem. But it's not just 770 that's changed so radically in the last 70 years, 74 years. Crown Heights itself has completely been transformed. We were here for a full week, and we literally ate out at a different restaurant every single night of the week. And I'm not even talking about Marmelstein's. I mean, we literally ate out at a restaurant, different one, every night. Crazy. And it's not even in Crown Heights and in 770. Talk about the shluchim. I am convinced at this point that they literally are making up new places in the world, places that don't exist, just so they can say a new shaliach is in this place. And every year I look at that beautiful picture of Kinas HaShluchim, of all the shluchim all gathered together in front of 770, and honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is how many overweight middle-aged men can they fit on one piece of paper? I mean, an 8x10 is only so big. And where's the photographer standing? The Brooklyn Bridge? I mean, how far back does he have to go? But what's really important isn't what's happening here amongst us. What's really exciting is what the Rebbe's vision was from the very beginning, which is what's happening outside of Chabad. Everybody today wants to connect to Chabad, Hasidus, and to the Rebbe. Did you know that Lubavitch is the fastest and largest growing Jewish movement in the world? Did you know that more people are learning Hasidus and calling themselves Chabad or close to Chabad than any other type of Judaism, faster than Reform, faster than Conservative, faster than Orthodox, Modern Orthodox, Traditional, Zionist, anything? We are on top. The Rebbe's vision that everybody should have a connection to him is happening. Wow. What are the odds of that happening from this, which you saw the video of the Rebbe on Yud Shvat? Incredible. And then came Gimel Tammuz. For those who were there, we know that Gimel Tammuz wasn't something that was improbable, unlikely. Gimel Tammuz was impossible. The knowledge, the feeling, the das that we all had here in Crown Heights, that the Rebbe was going to get up at any second and take us into Eretz Yisrael, into the Beis HaMikdash, was as sure to us as the sun was going to rise the next day. It was impossible that that couldn't happen. There wasn't one chassid that didn't believe with emunah shlema, no matter what it looked like, that the Rebbe was going to reveal himself as Mashiach in any minute. And if anybody's interested, my wife's book really talks about that time period as one of the most incredible parts of that book, especially for people who weren't there. She takes you through every detail of what happened. It's unbelievable. And even going through the process of reading it and helping her edit it, wow, what a special time. And yet, here we are today. How do we do Shtus de Kedusha in an impossible situation? One of the things I love to do when I come to Crown Heights is I love to dance after Shacharis with all the Bachrim. One of the privileges I have of not being from Crown Heights is that I am completely blissfully oblivious to any of the politics going on here. For me, anything with the flag, anything with the Mashiach song, anything with the shvil and the this and the that, I love it all. I just love it all. I mean, when I see, and the pins, all the new pins, there's a yellow pin and a gold pin and a shovel pin and a this pin and a that pin. It's like I'm a fish in water and these are the lures and I'm just like running after it. I mean, it's like Mashiach Candyland over here. So I jump into the fray, and I'm singing, and I think I'm the oldest guy there, the only American there, and looking at the guy with the flag and hoping it'll be my turn soon to, go like this as we're going around. And my eye catches the balcony. Now, to me, and to many others who are in this room, the balcony isn't just part of the back wall. The balcony was the lifeblood of Chabad. It was the heartbeat of 770. It was the nuclear reactor that drove this town. Much of what you see today here in Chabad and Crown Heights is as a result of that balcony. I was there when the Hasidim, and even though I wasn't so Hasidic at that time, I count myself in with the few that were lucky, would sing to the Rebbe and the whole shul would turn around and daven towards the balcony. And when the curtain opened and the Rebbe nodded, it was electricity going through the air. And it felt like we were singing Yechi for hours. I know it wasn't, but it felt like it was. And it wasn't just some Bachrim from Israel. It was every single Lubavitcher. You see any Lubavitcher with a gray beard here in Crown Heights, that was him. And I'm looking around as I'm dancing in this circle, and I'm saying to myself, these boys never had that. These boys didn't get that shot of Emunah from the Nasi Ador. And when I was in Machon Chana and giving over the Rebbe's Dvar Malchus, those girls didn't have that, hanging on every word as if this was life and death to them. They never had that. And when I'm looking here in this room, many of you never had that, and you're here. And you're learning, and you're davening, and you're believing, and you're kaching, and you're doing. And deep inside of you want nothing more than the complete Hisgalus. That's shtus to Kedusha. That's a shtus that's higher than Tam V'das. That's a shtus that doesn't make any sense. And yet, here we are, bigger and stronger, with more Emunah, still fighting over the same old things, but with a solid and complete belief in the Rebbe as Mashiach Tzidkenu. And then October 7th happened. October 7th wasn't something that was improbable, like Crown Heights becoming what it is today. October 7th wasn't something that was even impossible. October 7th is unspeakable. It's the ultimate catch-22. It's the ultimate bind that defies all description. When we think in the most simplest terms of how this could have possibly happened, we're speechless. Thoughts, speech, action, it's not even this, it doesn't make sense. It's not connected to sense. When we think about a solution, everybody knows that we should have done what the Rebbe said years ago, but we didn't, so now what? Who has a plan? Who has any idea how to get out of this situation? Nobody. It's impossible, and it's beyond impossible. And when we think about it emotionally, heaven forbid for a second we allow the window of our minds and our hearts to open up to what could possibly be happening in those tunnels to our brothers and sisters. Heaven forbid. We put up a wall because we have to. If we didn't, we'd collapse. And at the same time that we can't think about it, it's all we think about. It's all we think about. There's nothing that we do that's normal anymore. And at the same time that we cry tears of bitterness and pain at the mere thought of those disgusting animals that are being set free from prison, at the same moment that we have those tears, we're shedding sweet tears of joy when we see the faces of the hostages coming home. How do we have shtus to Kedusha for something that has no Kedusha in it? And then all of a sudden, the stories and the pictures start coming out of Eretz Yisrael. Pictures of chayalim, of holy soldiers who are wearing Mashiach patches on their uniforms and their helmets. Miftzoim, that the soldiers are clamoring for kosher tzitzis because they want to be protected. And people are starting tefillin campaigns. I don't even think that this woman who started that huge tefillin campaign, I'm not sure she's Lubavitch even. Thousands and thousands of pairs of tefillin for these holy Jews. And we hear the story of Agam Berger, who found a sitter in the middle of Gaza. And all of a sudden decides now's a good time for her to start keeping Shabbos. Now's a good time for her to keep kosher. And with the strength of a Jewish woman that only a Jewish woman has, she looks at her captors in their eyes and she says, no, I'm not cooking for you on Shabbos, sorry. And I'm not eating your treif food. I'm a Jew. This is biblical. And she comes out, and what is she talking about? God, faith. This is a shtus that's beyond logic and reason. This is a shtus that's beyond impossible. It's a shtus from the etzem haneshama. The whole Jewish world is awakening. And out of nowhere comes this song by this Rabbi Arush. It's taken over Israel. It's the new national anthem. It's how men in shul count the mispalim. They use this song that Hashem blesses us. Hashem loves us. Hashem, it is good, and it'll even be better. Od yoter tov, od yoter tov. This is ridiculousness on a completely different level. This is a shtus that's not just higher than Tam Vadas. It's not just impossible. It's a shtus that's coming from the etzem haneshama. It's a shtus that's coming from the light of every single Jew, and not just any light, the light that was before light. It's the shtus that's coming from Ikar Shechina, and it's coming down into this world now. May we be zoiche, and even if we're not zoiche, may Hashem have the ultimate rachmanas on His people, and bring the immediate and complete hisgalus of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach Shlita, L'matzim Yisar Tzvachim, Yechia Adoneinu Moreinu Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach L'mvad.
Thank you, Rabbi Feldman. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever heard Basi Legani summarized in such a shtustik dusha way. It was quite an exhibit. And speaking about Eretz Yisrael, we now have the zchus to hear regards from Eretz Yisrael. We have with us Mrs. Talia Tedgi from Lud. She is someone who is very involved in Nshei activities there, the Shifra and Pua organization, and is a supervisor for Haredi education in the area. Please give her your full attention.
Hi, I don't touch. Shavuot Tov to all the women of Crown Heights. So exciting to be here. I want to tell you, that I feel so excited and a little bit frightened speaking in English in front of you. And I hope it goes well. I have received education as an English teacher in the past, but I never actually taught English. So it's only in the non-formal way. So two very important ladies came to me in 770, said, we're looking for someone to say hi from Israel. And it's so heartwarming because I feel all the time, whenever I visit here, I feel such a strong connection between this neighborhood and Israel. Last time I was here, it was Shomer Chomot. Do you remember? It was 4 years ago. I was here with my bat mitzvah girl. We came to visit. And when we flew, we had to stop in the airport because there was such a big missile attack on the airport in Kfar Chabad and Lud and all this area. So we sat in the airplane for 2 hours. And when there was this little stop of the missile attack, the pilot just flew to New York. So we arrived here. And all of the Crown Heights people were so concerned about us. Every store I went into was like, you're from Israel, you're from Lod, come take this, how are you, what? We're strong, we're gonna win them. It was so welcoming. My name is Tali, and I do all kind of projects in Israel. My main project is, I'm a mother of 7. This is my main project. Takes the whole time also. And I want to share with you a little adventure I had the week of the 7th of October. In my job, my job for the last 10 years is supervising high schools for girls. I'm responsible for like 30 high schools, Haredic high schools and seminars, all kind of Haredic. It can be Chabad, it can be Gur, it can be Vishnitz, it can be Litai, Sfaradi, Sfaradi Mishukna, Sfaradi, כל מיני, a lot of ladders in that area. And in the last 10 years, my district is the south. So when the war happened in the 7th of October, all the Otef Aza was in my responsibility. All my schools are there. This is my area from Kiryat Gat to Eilat. All the schools there. All the Haredic schools were my responsibility. And on that Shabbos, I had 4 kids of mine here, okay? So when my kids come to age 16, they fly here every year to be here all the Tishrei with all their schools and friends, the yeshivas and the girls, the boys, everyone is here for a month. I'm staying with the 3 kids at home. I feel like a young couple. So 4 kids are here, hearing all these rumors. Some of them weren't true about what's happening to us in Israel. And although it was a huge tragic for all the people of Israel, that week I had just a satisfying adventure and a positive adventure for my family. Because when all the girls and boys got their flight canceled, they were stuck here. And I had a 20-year-old daughter stuck here, and there's so many 22-year-old boys stuck here also. So the shadchanit started to calling, okay, what do you want? He's stuck, she's there, he's there, let's do something. And I was so worried, like the most important experience, going to shidduchim and meeting a chassan. She's going to do it here in New York, not with me, not with us in Israel. But it was a great offer. And my daughter, 2 weeks later, she came back to Israel a Kale. So this is my special adventure. She got married in Tu B'Shvat, and now they're celebrating here with us. She's with us, with her husband. We're together here, celebrating 1-year anniversary. It's so exciting. But it was such a marathon, They had 4 pgishot in 1 week. It was Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Motzi Shabbos. And it was so quick. I couldn't believe what was going on. Imagine like what my week looked like. I was awake all night trying to find places for them to go. I don't know your area, where to go, boys and girls, like without anyone seeing them. I don't know. So one in there, and in Williamsburg, and this garden, and this park, and this cafe. So I was awake all night waiting for her to call me to say, how was it? How was he? What he said? What you said? What he looked like? Like maybe 6 a.m. I went back to sleep. 8 a.m. I needed to be sharp on the Zoom with all the South principals and supervisors, and I was not sleeping for a week. So this is like an example of what we are going through all our lives. Such an ambivalent life. In one hand, you have a disaster. In the other hand, you have happiness, and this is our life, I think, all the time, mixing together. I remember the first time we tried to bring all the educators together after the 7th of October. It was hard to catch them because there was no internet, there were hardly any phone lines. Everything was under bomb attacking, and all the South were menutakim. I don't know, how do you say menutakim in English? disconnected. No, מנותקים גם גיאוגרפית. You can't reach them. Nobody came there. And I was like, what? These are my people. They live there. It's not their fault there's a war. I'm going to just sit in the Merkaz, in Tel Aviv, in Lud, in Kfar Chabad, and not visit them. So I took my car, and I bought this huge pile of kifkef and Pesach Zman, and I went down to Ofakim. And then when I went down and drove and I saw what was going on there, I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't drive there in those roads. I was crying the whole way, really. I was crying the whole time I was driving. But then, when we were there, the 3-4 months of after the 7th of October, so the miracles came out, and the little Ashgocha Pratios came out, and we saw how everything is exactly how it was supposed to be. Because sometimes Hashem chooses circumstances that we don't agree with, we don't understand them, but He knows what He's doing. And some stories that I heard of, thank you. You don't know how hard for me is to express myself in a foreign language. Like the rhythm, the phase is slower, so I hope I'm understandable. Yeah. There's this little village near Ofakim. It's called Tifrach. It's a very Yishuv Litai Chazak. They don't like us there. No. But it had a miraculous thing in that war. Tifrach is so close to the Gaza fence behind Ofakim, and Ofakim was attacked, okay? Ofakim was attacked severely. 53 people got killed on 1 hour. And Tifrach has the big yeshiva, very famous in the Lithuanian world. So, היו כמה מחבלים, few of those, איך אומרים מחבלים? Terrorists, okay, this is easy word. So few of that terrorists, they're not terrorists, they're worse than terrorists. No, it's not a good word. Terrorist is like Japanese terrorist. No, מחבלים. Huh? Hamasnikim, you understand that word? Okay. Hamasnikim, יימח שמם וזכרם. So they're coming to attack monsters. Yeah. So they came to attack Ofakim, and they wanted to go with their motorcycles to Tifrach. And then they said, in the Chakirot, they said they saw walls of fire. They thought that Tifrach was being already on fire, so they didn't have nothing to do there. So they went on to a different place. And Tifrach was not on fire. More or less, they didn't even know what was going on. They went peacefully to the Bet Knesset and back, to the yeshiva and back. They didn't even know. יישוב מנותק לגמרי ממדיה, בכלל מהעולם הזה. They didn't know anything. And then there was this great story of Kfar Maimon. Do you know Kfar Maimon? I'm telling stories that happened to close friends of mine. I have a boss in my Haredic district. He lives in Kfar Maimon. And most of the people there are Shomrei Torah Mitzvot. So they were standing on the rooftops, and they were horrified to see what the terrorists were doing to their neighbors, and they knew that they're coming towards them. They didn't know what to do. They had like 6 men there, Kitat Konenut, 6 men with guns. They didn't know what to do. In that same time, they were trying to figure out what to do, go out, stay in, how many people are going to... In that same time, 2 huge helicopters were in the air, okay? One of the... There were so few helicopters. This is another question, where were the helicopters? But we don't talk about this right now. There were 2 helicopters with like maybe 40 soldiers in each helicopter with weapons flying, and the terrorists shot them missile that attacked helicopters, and they hit them. So the helicopter was going down with smoke. He was hurt. The helicopter was going down exactly near the field of the entrance to Kfar Maimon. So when those 6 men with guns, they came out to stop the terrorists from entering their yeshuv, they saw about 70 mechablim come out of the forest there, from the trees, surprising them. They didn't know what to do. It was a sure death. בטבע. אבל פה זה מעל הטבע. And then the helicopter landed there, and the troops were out of the helicopter, killing all the terrorists. Like it was amazing. It's like when those soldiers that were in the helicopter, thinking, "Oh my God, we're gonna die. We got shot and we're gonna crash." No, it was all Hashem's plan to save that Kfar Maimon Yishuv, and nobody was hurt there. This Yishuv was not hurt, even one person. They just went on to a different place. When you go to the south is so different in Israel from the Merkaz, from the Tzafon. They're different people. It's the peripheria. They're simpler, strong believers, very people that are connected to the land, to the Torah, to Hashem, even if they're not called דתי, if they're not called חרדי, very, very מסורת חזקה מאוד, אנשים עם המון אמונה. And so all the schools that I know, they put a map there on the wall, every principal, and they showed all the places that got hurt, places that got saved. They saw a path. So the easiest way was to say, look, all the yeshuvim that keep Shabbos and keep Torah mitzvahs, they were saved. Hashem saved us, which makes us move uncomfortably to hear that, because me and another Jew that doesn't keep Shabbos, we're the same. Yeah, maybe he's better than me. I think he's better than me because I have an easy life. I'm here. Chabad, Torah mitzvahs, the great neshamas, they go to the harder places without the Torah mitzvahs. So it's hard to think about that. All the yeshuvim that keep Torah mitzvahs got saved, and the other terrorists came to them. And then I remembered what happened in Tafshin Lamed Daled, 1974, when the Rebbe talked about Mivtza Mezuzah me'od chazak. He talked about it so strong. And then what happened in Ma'alot. Do you remember the massacre in Ma'alot? The terrorists from Lebanon came into a school, and they got hostages from students from Tzfat were sleeping there, and they killed 17 kids. 17 kids were killed. It was one of the biggest horrifying stories in Israel. It was many years ago in Tafshin Lamed Daled, and the Rebbe publicly said back then to check the mezuzahs of every room in their school in Tzfat. So there was this Chabad, Rabbi Eisenbach. He went to check, and he saw that there are 17 mezuzot psulot, exactly like the 17 kids that got killed. And the Rebbe said, well, to check again, because he found there another 4 mezuzot psulot, ולאט לאט עלו מספר קורבנות, and the victims were 21 kids, exactly as the mezuzot psulot, exactly the same number of victims. And all the media here, all the newspapers jumped. What? This Rebbe in New York, he says that if you don't have a mezuzah, you might get killed. So the Rebbe said another sikha, because it doesn't sound good. The Rebbe, it's not his way of speaking, it's not his way of thinking. He said, no, it's not like it's a punishment. If you have a mezuzah psula, then you're going to get killed. No, it's not that. It's that a mezuzah is a helmet. And you go to battle, you have a chance of getting killed. If you wear a helmet, then you have a greater chance to staying alive. So the Shabbos and the mitzvahs and the mezuzahs and the tefillin and everything is something to protect us. It makes a shirion. It makes a... אז אני יכולה לדבר בעברית. אתם כולם מבינות אותי בעברית. Shield, yeah. So why I'm bothering? Why? וזה חיזק, it was very, very strong there. In the south, all the people realized that Torah and mitzvot is a shield, and we better use it. המון התקרבו, המון התעוררות, המון... Did you hear about the story of Netivot? Netivot is kind of a holy city. There are 3 big tzaddikim buried there. There is the Baba Sali, there's Arav Yoram Abarjil Zatzal, there is Arav Yisachar Meir Zatzal. 3 big tzaddikim that worked there on the south and did good things. So when the terrorists came to the entrance of Netivot, because it was their path, Netivot, it's before Ofakim, it's closer to Gaza. It's crazy they didn't go into Netivot. Yeah, it's unbelievable. They went to come in, and then they saw, after they took the terrorists to interrogations, they talked, few of them told the same story. They saw 3 old men with long white dresses standing on the entrance to Netivot. They couldn't go in. They couldn't go in. And those Muslims, whatever they are, to understand that and say that in the interrogation, it was crazy. And the word got out, and all Netivot was celebrating about it, that they have the Haganah from the tzaddikim. I want to finish את הדברים, מסיים את הדברים. כי ימי צאתך מארץ מצרים, אראנו נפלאות. בעזרת השם, we have so many ניסים, so many miracles to thank the Shem. But we want, the בחינה of נפלאות. כתוב לעושה נפלאות גדולות לבדו. We live in a period, a תקופה, that Hashem's plans are in a bchina of niflaot. We don't know what to look for. We don't know how to look at what's happening. When we see a miracle, we know it's a miracle, it's a ness. People try to, there's this great, Ben Shachar Shire, this supervisor that worked with me, he's a great educator. He has a son that was a soldier there in Gaza. He was going with this kupat tzedakah all the time for 2 months. Tzedakah tatzil mimavet, tzedakah tatzil mimavet, tzedakah tatzil mimavet, tzedakah tatzil mimavet. All the soldiers there giving tzedakah all day, all day, all day. He saw miracles. Then he went back from the army. he כאילו התחזק, הפך להיות חסיד, ממש ממש הבן הזה, החייל, the soldier. And even one point in the war, he took the kupat tzedakah, all the pluga came to put some tzedakah inside, they moved back, and then there was a rocket exploding just where they stand 1 second ago, and all the mud was שפריץ הרבה בוץ, והבוץ שמר עליהם והגן עליהם, ולא קרה להם שום דבר. And all those people, it's every day all this nisim. But I'm talking about the niflaos. We want to see how it all comes together. Not to be blind anymore. In our Hasidic thinking, our Hasidic feelings, we know it's all for good. Maybe our brain doesn't understand it, but we know it's all for good. We know that this President of the United States now, it seems like, it looks like the Rebbe is telling him what to say. It's amazing. The Rebbe po'el pe'ulot, but we want to see it and be sure and be happy and go out with תופים ומחולות בעזרת השם ובזכות נשים צדקניות תבוא גאולה. אז תודה רבה לכם. תודה.
Thank you, Tali. Thank you for opening our eyes to the incredible nisim and aflais that are happening right now and each day. says, "La'osin niflais gedailes levadei," that Hashem does incredible nisim that we can see. But there are so many niflais gedailes that are just levadei. Only Hashem himself knows the extent of the nisim. If this is what we could be aware of, imagine what else is going on behind the scenes. But we should be aware of them, and we should know them, we should experience them in every aspect of Eretz Yisrael's safety and our own lives. We were treated to a niggin earlier by an incredible duo. And now we'll have a second niggin by Esther Bracha and Mushka. Please come up and join us, and everybody can sing along.
Free to sing along again. Thank you. Good Yom Tov.
Thank you, Esther Brecha Goldstein and Mushka Matasev. So, Bashkecha Pratis, going into Yud Aleph Shvat. It's actually 11 o'clock. And we mentioned earlier how the day of Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Shvat, the day of the Rebbe accepting upon himself the Nesias means the day that the Rebbe accepts upon himself us, his Chassidim. And that means every part of our lives. That means that the Rebbe cares about me and about you individually as his precious child, chassid, soldier. And as the Rebbe tells us so many times, how does this message hit home to me? What's the action that I can do to let the Rebbe know, Rebbe, today, I choose you as my Rebbe. what part of my day is going to look different? Because it's going to be illuminated with my hiskashrus. Whether it's the way I think, the way I speak, the way I act, the effect that I have on those around me, whether it's my family, my friends, my peers, my students, or any random person on the street that I meet, because that's who we are. We're the Rebbe's Chassidim. We're those funny people walking around Manhattan asking people if they're Jewish. As you came in, you probably noticed the table is beautifully set up by the incredible Miftzayim committee. Thank you. Before you leave, don't leave yet, but when you do leave, please make sure that you help yourselves to any materials that you can use as your ammunition to take with you as the Rebbe soldiers wherever you go, wherever you are, whoever you meet. There's something for everybody. There's also a beautiful table from the Welcome Mashiach Committee with beautiful materials that you can use as well. And before we close the evening, we're going to enjoy another video of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says about the Friedrich Rebbe's Nesios, well, the truth is this applies on all Yamim Tovim, but Hayamim Me'ela Niskarim V'nasim, when a day repeats itself in the coming year, any special day, and specifically the Rebbe says this about the day that a Rebbe becomes Rebbe, it's not just a commemoration of what was. And it's not even just taking the reality that happened on that day to a new level. The Rebbe explains that on the day that a Rebbe takes the Nesios, in every year that follows, similar to the idea of Rosh Hashanah, being that this is the Rosh Hashanah of the Rebbe's Nesios, we have an incredible new Or that has never existed before that comes into the world in regard to the Rebbe's Nesios and our hiskashrus to him. So that means that as powerful as it might be to watch the Rebbe saying Basi Lagani 74 years ago, going into the 75th year, the power that we have right now from Yud and Yud Aleph Shevat, right now, in this very moment, is actually greater than that. So maybe harness that power and go straight from, or even before the video plays, to hearing a brand new Basi Lagani like never before. L'chaim. We say about Yotes Kislev, Ar v'chayas navshenu nitan lanu. And we say about Yud Shvat, Ar v'chayas navshenu nitan lanu. We don't have to look at a screen, or we shouldn't have to look at a screen, to know and feel and see and experience Ar v'chayas navshenu. And may it be now. A reminder for anyone who needs to make a bracha right now to do so. And it should be the bracha rishayna for Geula. Chaim, Gat Yam Tov Chasidim. A good Tavach.